Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. Today I'll be reviewing Furiosa. So Furiosa is the newest film in the Mad Max franchise. It actually serves as a prequel to Mad Max Fury Road that came out in 2015, and I have to say, George Miller has another solid hit on his hands. It follows the story of Furiosa, who we saw played by Charlize Theron in the 2015 film, but in this one we see Anya Taylor-Joy playing her as a younger woman and fully discovering who she is as a character and really fleshing out her character arc. And I think in some ways, it almost makes Mad Max Fury Road feel even better, knowing this backstory, and really elevates the lore of this character in this world. That all being said, for me, I personally don't think this is quite as good as that film. That's an incredibly high bar to clear, but I do think it brings the same elements that people enjoy from the franchise, particularly from that film. The high-octane action, the huge set pieces, the wild landscape, all of the crazy characters and violence and everything you come to expect from this larger-than-life bombastic franchise. So in this film, we see Furiosa as a young girl when she is captured by Dementis, who then murders her mother. That's not too big of a spoiler. It happens really early on in the film, so don't worry about that. But I do think Dementis, who's played by Chris Hemsworth, is one of the more enjoyable villains that I've seen in recent years. He's fully ridiculous. He's almost like a stupid villain, but he's fully having a great time when he's on stage. You can definitely tell that Hemsworth is hamming it up for this role, and I think it made it just that much enjoyable to root against him as just this like horrible, conniving individual. I think his character really serves as this idea of being drunk with power, the idea of this dystopian world where nothing can stop you. You can be the most ruthless and brutal state of nature man that you can be, and it just shows how ridiculous kind of the logic and the striving for power and just kind of the illogical moves that he makes throughout the film. So this movie is kind of an allegory at times about the horrors of war and what war can lead to, and when man is left to its own devices without any guardrails, how horribly that can go. And I think also in doing that, Miller does a good job of exploring the lore of this world. I felt like in Mad Max Fury Road, as great as that film is, it is really this singular thing. It's just this mission, it's just this action, it's like one long action set piece, which I think is phenomenally executed, but doesn't dive too deep into the actual lore, what's happening in the wasteland. Well, I think this one goes into kind of the politics and the relationships just a little bit more. And like I said, I think it almost elevates Fury Road. If you see this one, you're like, okay, I even like that movie more now. Anya Taylor-Joy is solid as Furiosa. She doesn't have a ton of dialogue, and I have to admit, I was initially skeptical going into this film. Seeing her playing Furiosa is not so much of an imposing individual. Anya Taylor-Joy isn't, the biggest person in the world. So seeing her in this role, I think she pulled it off really well. I think she does the physicality really well. And she has a ton of acting through her eyes, through her emotions. And it is really interesting watching a character from basically when they're a child to when they're adult, living in this wasteland, and how that affects them and how that kind of takes away their innocence. I think one of the other themes working throughout this film is the idea of loss of innocence and who Furiosa is and why she became who she was. And I think that is very well executed. As you come to expect from these films, the cinematography is top-notch. The action set pieces are huge and exciting and loud. The soundscape is fantastic. The sound design, the score isn't too dissimilar from the first film, but I do think it works for this one, obviously, like it did in that one. It doesn't bring anything new to table. The only real negative I would have about this film when it comes to kind of the action is it felt like, at least to me, that there was far more CGI used in this film compared to Fury Road, because the set pieces are so huge and they're so ridiculous that there's a lot of CGI, and it did feel at times that it took me out of the film just a little bit, knowing that a lot of what I'm seeing is computer generated and on a green screen. I could be wrong. That's just how it felt when I was watching it, but I do enjoy his style of editing where it kind of speeds things up and makes things move just a little bit faster. And I think it could be jarring for some people, but I think for me, it creates more of an idea of tension and anxiety because things are just moving so quickly and unnaturally that it just kind of captivates your eye when you're watching it. I will also say, without going into any spoilers, there is a very quick cameo that I almost missed myself, and I watched this film with my wife and she didn't even notice it the first time. So keep an eye out for that cameo in this one. Another slight negative that I have for this film compared to Fury Road is it does feel just a touch long. It feels like at almost 2.5 hours long that at times it slows down unnecessarily. I think in kind of the first probably third of the film when we're setting up our characters, it does move just a little bit slower than you expect from a film like this, but by the time it kicks into gear, it doesn't really stop or take its foot off the pedal, which is one of the things we've enjoyed from movies in this franchise. And without going into too many spoilers, the ending of this film is somewhat ambiguous. It gives the audience kind of an opportunity to decide how they feel like things should have played out. It does push forward at the very end to give you an idea of maybe what actually happened, but that being said, it does kind of lead seamlessly into Fury Road with this being a prequel, and I liked how it kind kind of worked perfectly into one another. So if you check out Furiosa, let me know what you thought about in the comments below. How does it compare to Mad Max Fury Road for you? How does it compare to the rest of the franchise for you? I have kind of a special place in my heart for those earlier films because I watched them with my father growing up. So I do love Fury Road, but I love the old ones as well. So for me, this one kind of falls a little bit in the middle. So again, thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.